Ni hao. So I just took my lesson like a week ago, so I'm a little rusty, but I was in lesson two and I learned some different phrases, and there was a little bit more, and also kind of learned the context of a story. So I'll kind of go over the phrases that I learned, and then I think next week I'll maybe have like a special video with the story with some different drawings and things and seeing if it makes more sense. So far I've got some different emotions. So I know 我好, which is I'm good, right? 我很好 is I'm good or I'm very good. And then if I want to say I'm tired, 我累了 or 我很累. Or I could say I'm extremely tired. 我累极了. And that J there, it's kind of like, as I was explaining or explained, it's like a J, but you don't really open your mouth very much. It's kind of like a smiling closed J, so 极了. But it sounds similar to the J. And I thought it was a diphthong, 对了, for correct, but it's actually almost like she separates the vowels. 对了, 对了, 对了 would be correct. It's also interesting that I've learned that there's really no correct exact word for is. Like there's a word that's used sometimes for is, but otherwise there isn't a word like in English where we use is or are and that kind of thing. So that's really interesting because it's fairly important in Spanish and English from what I've learned. So it's interesting that it's just non-existent in another language. So I wonder how they go around with that. So I'll have to figure that out. So I'm going to do my best to kind of tell you the story that I remember. And like I said, next week I'll try to maybe have like the story with maybe some pictures so it makes more sense. So here is what I remember. And pronunciation might be not perfect. Give me a break. I only had one lesson with this, so okay. Yo yiga. Now she says Zhen, but the translate.google.com says Ren, kind of like an R. So I'm going to go with what she said, but if I mispronounce it, sorry. So yo yiga Zhen would be there is or there was a person. Okay. Yo yiga Zhen. And then to practice that phrase, I could say negative. 没有 would be what there wasn't. So 没有一个 is a. 没有一个 alligator. 没有一个 lawn gnome. I don't know those words, but we're just practicing the phrase. 有一个人. And then the phrase like he or she is would be 他是. So he or she is. 他是 Gollum would be, is it Gollum? Remember, Ma's a question. 他是 Gollum 吗? 他不是 Gollum. 他不是 Gollum. So it isn't Gollum. Remember, boo is negative. 不,他不是 Gollum. Gollum 不是人. So he's not a person. I guess he's a hobbit, technically. 有一个人他是 Yoda 吗? 不. Yoda 不是人. Oh, and if I wanted to say he's also not a person, you put that yeah, I think it's like yeah. It goes kind of after the person, like the subject. So Yoda 也不是人. So he's not a person either. Okay. 有一个人他是 And just so you know, a disclaimer, I have nothing against the character that was chosen. Maybe my teacher isn't a fan. So, okay. Just need to say that because it's funny for a story. 他是 Donald Trump. 他是 Donald Trump. 有一个人他是 Donald Trump. 他是 Donald Trump 吗? So is it Donald Trump? 对了，他是 Donald Trump. Donald Trump 不好看. So remember from last lesson, how kan is like good looking because how it's combining two things. How means good or nice, and then kan is or she kind of says like kan or can. It's like this combination between. I'm not really getting it, but I'll get there pretty soon. But like kan, I kind of say like that. How kan would be like good looking, or could like for a movie be look. It's an interesting movie. Donald Trump, boo, how kan. So he's not attractive. Okay. Donald Trump 不好看. Donald Trump 哭. And then if I wanted to say it in the past, because she did this too, I can add le on the end of it, which is kind of cool because I talked to the Chinese teacher at my school and I just met him. And so he ate pizza. And so I asked him, because another word for eat that I learned for this is chi is like eat. And then I asked him, ni was you, ni chi la pizza, because that's what he ended up eating. And I said, ni chi la pizza ma, which would be, did you eat pizza? And he said he did. So it's kind of cool because I figured out that was past tense by adding la on the end of it. Because the last lesson, my teacher told me that kan la would be saw, because kan is sees and then kan la is past. So anyway, I was kind of applying that. So ku is cries and ku la would be cried. So go back to the story. 有一个人打是 Donald Trump. Donald Trump 不好看. Donald Trump 哭了。因为 Donald Trump 不好看，所以 Donald Trump 哭。So this is kind of interesting, but because Donald Trump is not attractive, so he cries. So it's kind of an interesting way of wording that. That's the way that she worded it. And maybe you could have said kula, like he cried, so he cried. Donald Trump 干倒 Dr. Oz. And here, kanlo was Saul, kandao was another word for Saul. So I didn't really get the difference, but this will work like if maybe visited Saul and then visited him. I don't know. So Donald Trump, kandao, Dr. Oz. Donald Trump, 说. It kind of sounds like sure to me, like in an accent. So like said, Donald Trump, 说我哭，但是我不香菇，我不好看，我想到好看，怎么办? Okay, so Donald Trump says, I cry, but I don't want to cry, or I wouldn't like to cry. I am not attractive. 我想到好看. I would like to be attractive. It's kind of like I would like to have attractive, or I'd like to be attractive. And that last phrase I forgot how to say, but it's like 怎么办, like what to do. Dr. Oz 说对了，你不好看. Correct, you're not attractive. Chi green smoothies. Excuse me for that cognate there. Or not even a cognate, it's just excuse me for that English that I'm throwing in there, but that was what I was told in the story to keep it simple. Donald Trump 不想吃 green smoothies. Donald Trump 没有 would be like didn't. Donald Trump 没有吃 green smoothies. 因为 would be because. 因为 Donald Trump 不想吃 green smoothies. 所以 Donald Trump 不好看. So that would be like saying because Donald Trump would not like to eat green smoothies, so or therefore Donald Trump is unattractive still. Okay, or maybe I could have said he didn't eat it. So 因为 Donald Trump 没有吃 green smoothies, 所以 Donald Trump 不好看. So because Donald Trump didn't eat green smoothies, therefore, so Donald Trump is not attractive. And then this last one is kind of like last sentence. 因为 Donald Trump 不好看，所以 Donald Trump 哭. So because Donald Trump is still unattractive, or Donald Trump is unattractive, so therefore Donald Trump cries. Okay, so it's kind of a fun little story. I mean, obviously it's not the nicest story in the world, but then again, I'm not saying that it's correct or not. It's just kind of you could do any character in the story. That was the character that was chosen, so I'm just retelling you the story. But still, kind of neat that I can remember these phrases. I did something kind of interesting. I actually recorded while we were talking and telling the story. I recorded it on my phone just because we were doing a Google Hangout, but we didn't really want to like show that to the world. So I just recorded the audio and I just listened to it on the way to school. And man, I have terrible pronunciation in Chinese so far. But I think in listening to that over and over again for the last week, I think it really helped me figure out how things were pronounced, because the first time around, I was saying things almost like I was trying to say in Spanish, and I'm probably still doing that a little bit. But the more that I'm exposed to it, I'm really excited how much better I got. And I mean, even when I was telling the Chinese teacher at my school, the Mandarin teacher, I was telling him the story that I had been learning. I think he understood for the most part what I was trying to say. So although I have an accent, I mean, at least it's somewhat comprehensible to a sympathetic speaker. And I mean, hey, I learned a story, and now I can say a couple different things that I couldn't say last week. So I'm seeing progress. I think next week I'm going to be having to do a reading or something. But as promised, next week I'm going to show that story maybe instead in a kind of cartoony way for you to see. And then I'll post the following, I'll post my next lesson and what I've been learning. Oh, and before I forget, something else I've been trying to do is I've just been trying to find music in Mandarin. So, I mean, I go to church, so it's a pretty simple thing to find. So I was just looking up like different worship songs and stuff in Chinese that I already knew in English. And it's just kind of cool to hear. Like, I don't understand it, obviously, but I kind of know what it's supposed to be about, even though they change stuff when translations. But just to get that language like bouncing around more in my head and to hear the tones and the things and just to listen to those instead of maybe like English because it's easier. And I hope to eventually find, some more just popular Chinese pop music and stuff. Although I don't know how good Chinese TV is, like, soap operas and stuff. Obviously, like a TV show would be kind of cool to watch if it was compelling and interesting. So those are some things that I'm hoping to do in the future. But for now, I'm still excited about my lessons. I've only been on 2 lessons, but I'm pretty pumped for the 3rd one, 4th one, whatever, however many go. I just really want to learn. So I learned bye finally. She told me what it was, but I kind of didn't understand it at the time. I just have to hear things like 100 times in Chinese because my brain is not wired for the tones yet. And just it sounds so foreign to me. So I had to look it up on translate.google.com. Be careful with that. Word level is usually okay, but a lot of times when you look beyond that, or even the context could be off, when you look beyond that word level and go to sentence level, sometimes it really messes with like, just different things I've noticed with students that try to do it in Spanish. So anyway, I'm kind of careful with that. But bye supposedly is 再见, 再见, 再见. And again, it's like that J that's kind of closed, but you're smiling. So 再见, 再见, something like that. So 再见. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in a week or so after, I've learned some more. 再见.